my dear students, welcome back to our biology session. How's it going? I'm sure that you are well aware of our nervous system, the brain, neurons and spinal cord. And you may be wondering that how complex these organs are and how accurately they are performing their functions without any failure. Isn't it? Today we are going to discuss the last part of the chapter, Sensation and Responses, the autonomic nervous system, some nervous disorders, and finally how to take care of our nervous system. So shall we begin today's class? Autonomous nervous system. There may be many instances in our life where you feel or felt sadness, anxiety, fear, a variety of emotions, isn't it? How our body tackle this situation? Is there any system? Yes, there is a well-defined system which help to tackle all the emergency situation and help us to escape from the particular situation. That system is known as autonomous nervous system. Autonomous nervous system. There are certain instances in your life when you felt sudden fear or sadness. So for example, seeing a snake suddenly or unexpectedly, hearing the explosion of crackers, accidents, waiting for exam results, and the moment when you write the exam in an examination hall. Let's see at this emergency situation what all changes taking place in our body. Usually we felt the headache, the cheeks become red in color, the heartbeat become very high, that means rapid heartbeat, then goosebump means the hair on the skin lifted a little up, need to go to bathroom or toilet, shaky legs, then stomachache, sweaty hands, a lump in the throat, feel that something is inside the throat, something has stuck inside the throat, stuttering means stammering, unable to talk fluently or utter the words fluently, we will have some trouble. Then trembling mouth, that means shivering like feeling, and trembling voices. Voice is not clear, it has got some irritation. Now let's see some physical changes. Now let's see what are the various changes, especially the physical changes or the physiological changes in our body during emergency situation. We sweat profusely. Profusely means abundantly, not in a normal way. So sweating increases, the rate of respiration varies, the breathing rate varies, production of saliva decreases. Usually we will have a feeling of drying up of the lips and inside our mouth, that is buccal cavity. Loss of appetite, appetite means hunger. Nausea means a feeling of sickness with a vomiting tendency, and heartbeat increases. So these are the major changes that we can see when we face during an emergency situation. In the previous classes we have discussed the components of nervous system, isn't it? So nervous system is composed of two parts, central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system includes the organs like brain as well as spinal cord. Whereas the peripheral nervous system includes cranial nerves and spinal nerves. In that way we have drawn the flowchart, isn't it? Do you remember that? But in order to understand the functions in a proper way, in an easy way, we can classify the peripheral nervous system under two major headings: autonomic nervous system as well as somatic nervous system. Please keep in mind that both are composed of cranial nerves and spinal nerves. In order to study the function in a better way, we are classifying them into two categories: autonomic nervous system as well as somatic nervous system. Coming to somatic nervous system, it contains sensory and motor neurons or motor impulses. So sensory, as you know, they collect the various informations from sense organs and carry it towards the major centers like brain and spinal cord. But the motor, they give commands to sense organs, which is transmitted from the organs like brain and spinal cord. Now let's focus on autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system or the visceral nervous system controls the working of involuntary organs. It is actually a type of defense mechanism too, in order to fight or flight on a particular emergency situation. So autonomic nervous system is divided into two categories: sympathetic and parasympathetic system. So let's see the details. Autonomic nervous system, the activities that takes place beyond the conscious level are controlled by autonomous nervous system. So beyond the conscious level, that means unconsciously or involuntarily. Autonomic nervous system is composed of sympathetic and parasympathetic system. It is a part of peripheral nervous system and it is composed of cranial as well as spinal nerves. So these are the peculiarities of autonomic nervous system. They are beyond the conscious level, that means all are involuntary. It is composed of two sympathetic as well as parasympathetic system. It is a part of peripheral nervous system and they includes cranial and spinal nerves. Now let's see the sympathetic nervous system. Here you can see the brain as well as the spinal cord. In sympathetic nervous system, all the nerves are arising from the spinal cord. You can clearly see here the nerves arising from spinal cord and it connected to almost all the major centers like eye, then heart, the trachea or the lungs, then adrenal gland, sweat gland, liver, uterus, urinary bladder. So even if they are arising from the spinal cord, they got connection with almost all the major parts of our body. Similarly, the parasympathetic also has got connection with this part, but the major difference is that here the nerves are arising from both brain as well as spinal cord. So this indicates that sympathetic consists of spinal nerves only and parasympathetic is composed of both spinal as well as cranial nerves. Now let's see both the figures together. Here you can see that the controlling centers are different but actions are carrying on the same part or organ. So sympathetic consists of only spinal nerves, whereas parasympathetic has cranial as well as spinal nerves. Now let's see the mode of action, sympathetic versus parasympathetic. So usually the sympathetic helps to fight or flight in an emergency situation. The parasympathetic soon follow the sympathetic in order to bring back the conditions in a normal way. So we can say that they are antagonistic in nature. Antagonistic in the sense they are opposite in action. The sympathetic and parasympathetic autonomic nervous system are often antagonistic in their action. Antagonistic means they are opposite in action. The sympathetic system usually speed up or stimulate the action of particular organ, whereas the parasympathetic exerts an opposite or inhibitory effect on the same organ. For example, the sympathetic system speed up the action of heart while the parasympathetic slow downs the action of heart. Thus, we can conclude autonomic nervous system has two components, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic consists of spinal nerves only, and the parasympathetic is composed of spinal as well as cranial nerves. In order to study in an easy way, I have ordered and tabulate the entire activities of autonomic nervous system in a pattern. Here you can see the organs are arranged in the middle, and the left side follows the sympathetic and the right side follows the parasympathetic. When you observe the table carefully, you can see that the first 4 categories are increasing, then a normal state, then the next 3 are decreasing. Again, an activity is given in the last. I repeat, if you study in that particular order, that means first few increasing, then a normal activity, again it is decreasing, then an equation like activity. So let's see each one in detail. See children, this is an important one. You can expect a sure question from this table, maybe 3 mark or 2 mark question. So tabulate the activities of sympathetic and parasympathetic system. So pupil in the eye. Pupil is a small aperture in the eye. During emergency situation, with the help of sympathetic system, they dilate. So dilation cannot be prolonged for long time. So following the dilation, after a few seconds, the parasympathetic system brings it in a normal way, that is they contract. They helps in contraction. Trachea, that is a part of our respiratory system, they expands with the help of sympathetic system during emergency situation. But at the same time, the parasympathetic bring back by contracting the trachea. Next activity is related to heart or circulation. Heartbeat increases and with the help of parasympathetic it becomes normal. There you can't write decreases because there should be a normal range of heartbeat and blood pressure. So you have to write becomes normal. Then production of hormones. Hormones are the chemical messengers. We will see the details of hormones in our 3rd chapter. So now you can understand the hormones are chemical messengers. They increases with the help of sympathetic system. Furthermore, the parasympathetic system helps to decrease the production of hormone. Then urinary bladder during emergency situation regains a normal state. whereas with the help of parasympathetic system they contract. Then production of saliva decreases with the help of sympathetic system, whereas with the help of parasympathetic system the salivary secretion increases. Then gastric activities, that means all the activities related to the stomach, slows down with the help of sympathetic system, whereas with the help of parasympathetic system it becomes normal. Now the next is the peristalsis. Peristalsis is a wave-like movement throughout the alimentary canal. It is slowed down with the help of sympathetic, and with the help of parasympathetic it becomes normal. And the last activity, glucose metabolism. As you know, glucose is stored in the liver in the form of glycogen. So during emergency situation, we need more energy to think and act, isn't it? So the liver converts glycogen back to glucose to provide more energy. That is done with the help of sympathetic system. Parasympathetic converts the glucose back to glycogen. So in this way, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic works hand in hand in order to maintain a normal equilibrium, and similarly they helps to overcome or to fight against emergency situation. Now moving to the next topic, nervous system and its disorder. As you all know, it is one of the most complex and highly specialized networking system in our body. It organizes, explains and directs interactions between you and the world around you. So a healthy nervous system is the basis of normal body activities. Even minor defects in the nervous system may cause serious health problem. So we have to take care of our nervous system by following certain good habits and balanced diet. Now let's see some familiar diseases that affect our nervous system. Rabies, polio, Bell's palsy, epilepsy, Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. This Bell's palsy is paralysis of the facial muscle. The other diseases we are going to have a quick look now. Let's move to the next slide. Rabies. As you all know, rabies is caused by the bite of mammals, especially the dog. So what is rabies? It's a disease caused by a virus attack an animal's brain and spinal cord. So infected organism can spread the rabies by biting humans or other animals. And where the virus attack, it attacks our brain and spinal cord. So animal bite is the major mode of spreading the virus, and it affects our nervous system very badly. The common carriers of rabies are bat, fox, cat and skunk. So most of the mammals are the sources of spreading the disease to human population. Symptoms include fever, depression, agitation. Agitation means some sort of stress or violence. Painful spasm. Spasm means very stiff muscles. Followed by excessive saliva and death within a week without vaccine. So very pathetic condition if the treatment is not getting in a proper time. So vaccination is there in order to prevent the infection. So those who are taking care of the pet animals, make sure that vaccination is taken, and if you are suspected for any bites of these animals, suddenly you have to take immediate vaccination in order to save your life. Next is polio. Polio is commonly known as the common term. It is usually known as poliomyelitis. It's a viral disease which distracts the motor neurons and damages the brain and spinal cord. It is characterized by the muscle weakness and paralysis. Usually affected in the children, or children are more infected to this type of infections. Then mode of spreading, poor sanitation, then oral or pharyngeal transmission, that means unhygienic conditions, and during the outbreaks oropharyngeal transmission. So basically poor sanitation as well as poor hygienic habits lead to the spreading of these diseases. Now the reason is the viral infection which affects the nervous system, and symptoms include fever, vomiting, sore throat, fatigue, and finally it affects the nerves in the legs and get paralyzed. It can be prevented by taking vaccination. Very successfully government and medical department is carrying out in order to eradicate this disease. Almost it is eradicated, and with the help of this polio vaccine we can save the lives of thousands of children every year. Now let's moving to the next disease, epilepsy. Epilepsy is due to continuous and irregular flow of electric charges in the brain. When we discuss about the synapse, there we have studied that the impulses can be transmitted from one neuron to next neuron by two methods: electric charges as well as with the help of chemical impulses. So these electric charges become continuous and irregular in certain situations. That results in irregularity in sending and creating the impulses, which result in a disease called epilepsy. So continuous and irregular flow of electric charges in the brain is the reason for epilepsy. The major reason for epilepsy are brain infection. The major reason for epilepsy are stroke and brain tumor, brain infection, hereditary abnormalities, head injury or accidents, then prolonged fever, constant fever which may cause damage to neurons and the related structure. So what are the symptoms of this epilepsy? Sudden twitching of arms and legs. So shivering. Shivering means not in a normal way, very fast movement of arms and legs. We cannot control ourselves. Loss of consciousness. Tingling sensation on arms and legs. Then stiffness in muscles of arms, legs or face. So these are the major symptoms of epilepsy. Now let's see the next disease, Parkinson. Parkinson disease is mainly due to destruction of specialized ganglions in brain. The production of dopamine, a neurotransmitter in brain, gets reduced. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter. They helps in transmission of impulses, especially the motor regions related to muscles. As a result of aging or due to some other reason, the dopamine production will be decreased, and that in turn adversely affects the system. So production of dopamine decreases. As a result, ganglions in the brain get destroyed. So that is the reason for the disease Parkinson. So these are the major symptoms of a Parkinson disease. Usually is an age-related disease. As we grow older and older, the efficiency for producing dopamine becomes less, and that affects adversely and result in a disease called Parkinson disease. So here you can see some of the characteristics or symptoms of the diseases. Masked facial expressions, then forward tilt of trunk, a bending or stooped posture will be created. Rigidity, that means stiffness to the muscles, because muscles won't get enough dopamine, so they won't be able to contract and expand accordingly. Then flexed elbows and wrist, always showing a bended or a curved structure. Then reduced arm swinging, then slightly flexed hips and knees. Flexed means bended. Then trembling of extremities, shivering or tremor will be shown by the patients. Then shuffling short step gait, that means the movement of leg is having some sort of tremor or shivering. Now let's see the next disease, Alzheimer's. In the first picture you can see the comparison of a healthy brain and a Alzheimer's disease, isn't it? Now what may be the reason for Alzheimer's disease? Accumulation of an insoluble protein in the neural tissues of the brain. So it is usually called as plaque. In the advertisement of toothpaste and all, you might have seen that an yellow color substance stick on the enamel of the tooth gradually changes the color of the tooth to yellow color. Later it becomes very hard and rough. Similarly, a protein, an insoluble protein, gets accumulated on the neural tissues in the brain. Later, these tissues become very hard and brittle, and the neurons in that region get destroyed. As a result, the brain with the specific function, especially related to memory, then recognition, etc., will be lost forever. So let's see the symptoms of Alzheimer. Confusion with time and location, withdrawal from social activities, difficulty in completing familiar tasks. Even if it is a simple task, they won't be able to complete. Difficulty in solving problem, misplacing items, cannot be able to recognize or recollect where they have to keep it back. Memory loss, unfounded emotions, difficulty with words, trouble with images and spaces, poor judgment. So very pathetic condition. Why? Because they don't know about themselves, what they are doing. They are not aware of themselves. So we can reduce the risk of Alzheimer's by following certain tips. Look after your heart. So that means be physically active. Then follow a healthy diet. Then challenge your brain. That means always give some work to brain so that they can coordinate their activities in an efficient way and enjoy social activity. Even our learning process itself is a brain activity. Do you know that? Why we are studying different subjects? In order to develop maximum connectivity among the neurons in the brain. That's why the importance of learning. Education itself is a brain exercise. In education, while learning process, we are writing, we are reading aloud, we are trying to recollect the learned materials or the things or the facts. All these are examples of brain activity. So by doing these recollecting, memorizing, writing, reading, then listening, everything, your brain gets connected continuously. So as you create more and more connections, your brain will be work in an efficient way. There comes the importance of learning a music instrument. So music instruments, any music instruments, if you learn additional language or a musical instruments, there itself you are creating more connections among the neuron. Similarly, creating hobbies or doing artwork, then doing creative things using waste materials or the recycling the waste materials in a usable form. All these are examples of your brain activity. So dear children, make sure that along with the studies and all, you also have some nice hobbies or creative work. Now the risk factors of Alzheimer's. Age is a major problem. As you're getting older and older, the plaque accumulation of the plaque is also increasing, which causes damage to neuron. Then gender is also a factor. Then genes, that means hereditary or the family history. Defective genes may cause Alzheimer's. Then hereditary factor, that is the family history. Then head trauma, that means some injuries or accidents in relation with the head. Then brain abnormalities, maybe due to by birth or similar factors. Then smoking, high blood pressure, obesity, overweight or obesity, limited physical activity, lack of exercise. Nowadays in a busy schedule, we don't have the time to do the exercise. So it is compulsory that you must do an exercise daily in order to maintain your health in a good condition. Then lack of mental activity, lack of thinking, lack of connectivity, lack of creativity, all these may lead to Alzheimer's. So these are the risk factors. Now we have to study the three diseases in detail. That means you have to study the reason and symptom of three diseases. It is given in the text also: Alzheimer's, Parkinson and epilepsy. As I said, Alzheimer's is due to accumulation of insoluble protein in the neural tissues of the brain. Neurons get destroyed. The major symptoms include loss of memory, inability to recognize the friends and relatives, and inability to do the routine works. Parkinson, destruction of specialized ganglions in the brain, production of dopamine, a neurotransmitter in the brain, gets reduced. As a result, loss of body balance, irregular movement of muscles, shivering of body and profuse salivation. Those persons cannot close their lips properly. As a result, salivation will be very high. Just like small babies. When you observe small babies, you can see that they cannot close the lips because of lack of brain development. Here also, as a result of lack of dopamine, they won't be able to close the lips properly. As a result, profuse salivation is observed. Last one is epilepsy. It is due to continuous and irregular flow of electric charges in the brain. As a result, muscular contractions will be very high. Frothy discharge from the mouth. Frothy means some foam like discharge from the mouth. As a result of increased salivation, it comes on a sudden. Then clenching of teeth following with patient falls unconscious. Clenching means the patient tried to hold the teeth tightly. Because of the over shivering, he or she fails to do so. So that is known as clenching of teeth. Try to hold the teeth in position. As a result of shivering, they fail to do so, it is known as clenching your teeth. Now let's see some mind diet, what all things we have to consume in order to boost up our memory and brain activity. Make sure that you are consuming the whole grains, green salads, that means leafy vegetables, then strawberries or other berries, variety of berries are there, strawberry, blueberry, blackberry. So all the berries or the berries which is available to your locality, you can consume those. Then nuts like badam, pista, all those things. Then beans and legumes, very important. Variety of beans and legumes are available. So make sure that you are consuming daily a variety. Then poultry, that means chicken, very fond of you, no need to insist you again, you are already taking this in a huge amount nowadays. Then fish means tuna, sardine, salmon, mackerel, all those fish which are rich in omega-3 fatty acids. Then coconut oil, olive oil, all these are important. So leafy vegetables, fishes like tuna, mackerel, sardine, etc. Beans or legumes, different varieties of peas, beans, etc. Then flax seeds, then chocolate, spices, turmeric. Here I would like to mention the importance of turmeric. Turmeric is an antioxidant agent having anti-infectant property too. So they fight against the germs or infections or the plaque-like structure in our brain. Not only in our brain, the whole body. Since we are discussing the brain and the nervous system, so turmeric, we know most of the dishes having the turmeric, we are adding turmeric along with all the curries and dishes. So importance of turmeric is that they helps in fighting against all these type of diseases. So make sure that you are consuming right amount of turmeric and other spices in your dishes. Then different types of berries and fruits, then coconut as well as olive oil. So a balanced diet is very important for the health of the brain. Now, what should be our approach towards people affected from nervous disease? As you know, nervous diseases are very tough to cure completely. It can be treated to a certain extent, but it cannot be treated and cured completely. So we must take care of such patients. We must show love and affection to those people who are suffering from nervous disorders. We must give special consideration and we must be patient enough to take care of them by giving proper understanding. So don't separate them apart from the community. We have to hold them along with us by giving proper care. Students, I hope today's class is clear for you. Here I am concluding. Thank you.